All right, I'm back. As I said, I started this thing off on Black medicine, talking about a historical perspective. So, just recapping real quickly, we talked about we talked about in 1808 when um, the Americas then banned any further African slaves coming over to the Americas, and when that happened, they realized that they have to make the most of the slaves they got, and that fell on the shoulders and breast and wombs of the women. So they became a hot ticket, hot commodity. They were made to be baby meals because from the belly of a woman slave is born a slave. And so these babies that came out already with the title of being a slave um, was cha-ching to the plantation owners. And doctors saw the profitability of that. And so they came alongside to make their money as well. And they also saw that they don't have to use animals. They got real live humans to experiment on for the advancement of medicine. And so they created a myth that women were impervious to pain. So many a times they didn't even use anesthesia. They just chopped them up, figured out why they couldn't get pregnant, figured out what happened to this pregnancy, uh, figured out creative ways to get the baby out, i.e., cesarean section on the blood and guts of these women for the advancement of medicine. Then came 1865, the abolishment. Well, when slavery is abolished, now uh, this now hot commodity is now a burden to us. What can we do with them? We can't do anything with them. Um, we can kind of talk some of them into staying in the plantation, and that happened. But for many of them, they were pushed to the side. Now imagine this: over 200 years of being forbidden to read, uh, beaten if found trying to educate yourself, now have to be in a society to fend for yourself. So yeah, for their family, some stole. Yeah, you damn right. Some will go find some chicken somewhere. But we gonna eat tonight, baby. We got all these kids. I'm supposed to be the man of the house, and some of them came home, and some of them did not. So the reputation was they ain't nothing but criminals and thieves. Sometimes when you're surviving, you don't see it like that. So they created laws called sterilization laws. And with these laws, it was they had the right, the states um, made the rights to where these people of color were able to be sterilized, often without their consent. One judge in the state of Virginia in that time said 3 generations of these imbeciles is enough. So yeah, sterilize them. And if they couldn't do it that way, they created laws whereby Um, if you showed any tendencies of mental instability, well, duh, these are people coming off of post traumatic stress syndrome of years, decades, centuries of slavery, and now are left to fend for themselves. So I bet there was some neurosis. I bet there was some manifestation of some phobias. Well, if they saw anything, they had a right to lock you up in a sane asylum. And in that insane asylum, their job was to get you functional. And the way they chose to get them functional was to create occupational therapy for them. And that occupational therapy was, yes, return to slavery. Well, now we're in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Many of the people of color saw this and they realized they have to get ahead of this, become physicians themselves. So some 14 black medical schools cropped up. Some were not sustainable. It dwindled down to about a strong 7. American Medical Association saw this and decided that medicine needs to be standardized. And with that standardization, they created a Flexner report funded by a rich family, the Carnegie Foundation. And it went across to everybody. I get that, including the white medical schools, but the white medical schools that were about to succumb to not meeting these standards were supported by other rich and wealthy families, such as the Rockefellers. They came on board and they helped out this university, funded this university, and so forth. Well, the seven black medical schools had no funding, and only two survived this cut, and that was Howard University and Meharry. So now we have just two black medical schools, and what a timely um, time to now in the 1930s and beyond to have this thing called the Tuskegee experiment, where some 600 some odd uh, black men who were diagnosed as being positive for syphilis were promised if they come to this particular clinic, they would get treatment for it. Federal, and this was a federal funded experiment, but they weren't getting treated, they were observed. Because in medicine, in the advancement of medicine, pathology is supreme. And at that time, syphilis was the disease that pretty much affected every body system. So you were able to learn about cardio and cardiovascular and cerebral vascular events, uh, kidney and its function and what impedes its function, the skin, its integrity, and how that integrity is lost, and ultimately the mind as they watch them go through primary, secondary, and tertiary syphilis affecting the central nervous system. And it wasn't till 40 years later where it was revealed that y'all been playing us, y'all been using us. So we can imagine the years of this going around the black communities to how there was a tremendous distrust that even when you go to the doctor for help, somewhere along the way you're going to be a guinea pig. Somewhere along the way you can't trust them. And eventually the consciousness of America woke up. And in 2008, the American Medical Association sent out a formal apology saying we're sorry for the Flexner report. We see its ramifications. The studies retrospectively show that we cut 30,000 potential Black physicians of entering the health workforce by that study alone. We stifled them, and 30,000 physicians, by our calculation, would have entered the medical field had we not done that. So they apologized. Well, the trickling effect happened. So then after that, um, the United States Public um, Health Association uh, deemed in 2018 that racism is a health crisis. They saw how it was impacting us as a people and increasing that health disparity and decreasing our health equity. And so in 2021, the World WHO organization, they came to the forefront and say, it's our turn. We apologize to Henrietta Lacks, a Black woman in the 1950s, was diagnosed with cervical cancer. While examining her, we took some of her cervical cells and we used them for our own research. And we found out that she had a cell line that didn't die, it was immortal. And with this immortality of a cell line, you can do many things as far as advancement of medicine because you can put diseases and various pathologies with that cell line that wouldn't die and create cures for various diseases. So out of Henrietta Lacks, they ended up calling her cells HeLa cells, abbreviating her name, Henrietta Lacks. And with these HeLa cells, biotechnology companies were selling them out for billions of dollars of profit so that other countries and nations can do the same thing, all in the advancement of medicine. Some of the ways we benefited from it is the polio vaccine. Uh, Being able to successfully do in vitro fertilization, to be able to find effective medications for HIV, to be able to find curative medicines, chemotherapy agents that would attack certain cancer cells, all on the skin of a 30-year-old Black woman that ended up dying in her 30s from this dreaded cancer. Then in 2021, the city of Philadelphia decided to apologize as well because they allowed a well known dermatologist to use as guinea pigs some people of color in prison, as he was sponsored by the government and other companies to create various skin health products. But in order to do that, he had to be able to have some skin to test. And so uh, these prisoners were exposed to herpes on the skin. They were exposed to various um, bioweaponry chemicals. They were exposed to radiation at different levels. They were exposed to many things. He sat back and took his notes and see what they did and what he didn't do, what medicines he can create to cure them. That's facts. Now, if you don't like that, you just don't like history, or maybe you want to continue to be ignorant of that fact. But I'm gonna talk about it. But to the black and brown, we can't take that information and spite off our nose to cut our face. Or yeah, yeah, we can't do it because that's all that we do. We're cutting off our nose and spite our face uh, because we don't trust them, but we're hurting ourselves, and it has put us in a position where we're leading in the wrong categories. Yeah, more prevalent with us is chronic preventable illnesses, diabetes, hypertension, obesity. Those are all preventable. But when we don't do anything about those, they spill over into cardiovascular disease, cerebral vascular disease, renal vascular disease. And these disease processes is what ends to a reduced life, a shortened life. And we're spending too much time accepting that as our destiny and our outcome instead of wanting to do something about it. And that's where I'm stepping in because I see it far too often, having to go out and tell families about their 40-year-old, their 50-year-old, their 55-year-old who is now dead or who's had a major stroke event and may not recover, or who has a major heart attack that will definitely alter his life for the rest of his days. And things of that nature when I know they were preventable. And many times I've seen it with my own eyes. Some of us as in my profession as a physician, has lowered the standard towards us. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. 60 Minutes did their own study many years ago and found out that with treatment, people of color was actually treated via a lesser standard than our white counterparts, a medicine that may be less effective, the aggressiveness of care being uh, less profound and intentional. These type of things. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen my people come to the ER and their blood pressure's through the roof. They've already had one stroke, and I ask them what medicines they're on, and they tell me, and I said, "Are you? Did they ever put you on this?" No, no, they never mentioned that. Did they ever say do this? No, no, they haven't mentioned that. Mm-mm. And I just scratch my head. And I try not to think that this is nefarious. I try to just assume the patient may have not forgotten. But you know what? If we didn't convey the knowledge to inform the patient, no matter how much talking we did to them, we did nothing. So the informed patient is the best patient. And I want us to no longer be those who divest or invest all our energy on trying to catch up and expend all our energy on accelerating our death instead of working smarter and harder and expend our energy to extend our life. And I have some specific strategies that I'm confident will not only improve our health, but will improve our longevity. And the first thing we have to understand is to get out of this John Henryanism notion. John Henryanism is this idea that I see the machine, I see what I'm up against, but I'm going to show them, I'm going to beat it. And he beat it all right, but he died with that hammer in his hand. What's the machine that's in your way? What is it? Is it racism in your office? Is it fighting a losing battle just to make a paycheck around a bunch of people who won't and don't see your worth? So you're going to work doubly hard thinking you're going to change their mindset. I got news for you. The preconceived idea that that person has towards you was preconceived. In other words, no matter what you do or say, you're not going to change how they think about you. You might as well accept that. And so the best thing to do is work smarter and not just harder. Now, for us, if we want to bridge the gap in healthcare disparity, we have to work smarter, but continue to work harder, but more efficiently. So, decreasing the allopathic load, that's number one. That's number one. Because if you can decrease your allopathic load, an accumulation of various processes that weighs us down, keeps the cortisol level high, predisposing us to disease processes. This John Henryanism, do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Boom, I did it, but then I died. Then what would you do it? What'd you do it for? He beat the steam drill. Yes, he did. But then he died with the hammer in the hand. And guess what? The steam drill kept on drilling. And for so many of us, our goal is I'll show them. And at the end of the day, our job is terminated. Our blood pressure is up and you're replaced. So why not stop trying to fight the machinery of a structure that many times isn't in your favor and just focus on how can I be smarter? How can I be smarter? Yeah. So this is where I want to educate Black and Brown communities on preventative health issues. Understanding the disparities, we talked about that. The preventive nature of many of the health issues that we deal with, we talked about that. I want to talk about taking ownership of our health via education and awareness. I want us to understand new modalities in medicine that puts us in the driver's seat of our own healthcare. One of that does include diet modification. Diet modification. We make some great food. Yeah, we do. And sometimes everything that tastes good ain't necessarily good for you, or at least not all the time. And so it forced me to study uh, the diets historically of our ancestors in Western Africa. I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. Many of their life expectancies were short, but it was from tribal wars and death by that nature. But then studying their bodies by anthropologists saw that their bodies actually was pretty darn healthy. So health plays a big part. We talked about reducing the allostatic load. And we're going to talk about some practical steps, things you could do. And I'm going to be real quick because each one of these episodes is going to bore you. is going to lull you off. But I want to keep your attention enough for you to come back. So please click and subscribe. But I'm going to just say this as I finish. Isn't it possible for half of the year you be a vegetarian? Diet high in raw grains, not refined, not enhanced, natural, and vegetables for half the year. That sounds like a lot. Basically, every other day. Every other day. Let vegetables be your meal. How about this? Fasting. It's the body's natural detoxification. How about that? Think maybe you can do that 52 times a year? Once a week. How about find 2 days every week where you're going to commit yourself to a 45-minute walk? Just 2 days. Those were some mammoth changes I just mentioned and simplified it as something that's easily done and something that we can easily adapt to. Oh, there's more. Oh, there's more. You talk about a people that has the worst life expectancy now accelerating on the next tick in the next decade of, oh my God, Black and brown ain't dying at 70. They moved up to 75. The machine is still there. A structure in place that is not for you is still there. But you didn't play the victim. You did something about it. You decided to work harder and smarter. I've got more. I'm just getting started. Health Bits with Dr. Ball. Click, like, and subscribe, and follow along. As I said before, Health Matters podcast, where you come for the knowledge and you stay for the application of that knowledge for a better, more healthy life.